Magic money on the internet that will make you a millionaire faster than Usain Bolt finishes the 100-meter sprint, or a Machiavellian scam intending to drain your account in no time. You've heard it all, but here at Everything Crypto, we aim to unveil the truth behind common misconceptions regarding everything related to, well, you've guessed it, crypto. Today we'll discuss everything you need to know about Bitcoin and reveal if this mysterious internet-based currency is going to zero or not. Does it have a future? Does it hold any real value? Does my dad love me? We'll see the answers to all your questions in the following minutes. Well, maybe not the last one though. Bitcoin was created in 2009 by a mysterious individual or group of individuals who enter under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto and whose identity remains unknown to this day. There have been an insane amount of speculations regarding the real identity of the Bitcoin founder or founders, including theories it may have been Dorian Nakamoto, a Japanese-American engineer who denied the allegations, Australian scientist Craig White who downplayed it by claiming to be a bit of everything and told his attorneys that his efforts to hide the fact that he's the mastermind behind Bitcoin are gonna be ruined. Spoiler alert. It probably ain't him. And Nick Szabo, a pioneer in the field of smart contracts and decentralized currencies. By the way, if you don't know what smart contracts are, subscribe to the channel because boy, we're gonna cover a lot from the crypto space in the coming weeks. What's important to remember is that this unknown entity owns allegedly more than 1 million Bitcoin, which would make him, or them, virtually the richest person in the world. And as far as I know, it could be your grandma we're talking about. It probably isn't though. But enough about this guy, nobody cares about him that much, it's what he put out there that counts. So what did he create exactly? Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that can be transferred on the peer-to-peer Bitcoin network. What does this mean? Let's break it down. A digital currency is any currency, money, or money-like asset that is primarily managed, stored, or exchanged on digital computer systems, especially over the internet. In Bitcoin's case, this happens only on the internet, as there is no way to convert it into physical currency, that is, if you don't want to exchange it for a traditional currency like dollars for example, on an exchange like Binance or FTX. Decentralization means there is no central authority responsible for Bitcoin. Unlike a bank, if you lose it, you can't go to someone and be like, hey, I own the Bitcoin and it got stolen, could you help me get it back? They won't because there is no them. The Bitcoin ledger is public and distributed across millions of computers who maintain it through mining. Oh, you've heard of that, right? Stories of friends who got rich just by letting their computer run the ledger. Well, honestly, this wouldn't have been so far-fetched in 2013, but now it's gotten more complex, and I'll tell you why. Miners are computers that maintain the Bitcoin ledger by writing down transactions which happen on the network. However, they do so by solving a really hard mathematical problem at first, in order to verify the transaction and winner place is the one who actually gets to write it down. That's right, miners compete against each other in a race to be the first to solve the problem, and as the network gets bigger and more computers join in, the problem is increasing difficulty as well, so the computing power needed to solve it rises exponentially, kicking slower miners out of the system. Now, I know what you're thinking about, and the answer is yes, the problems are that hard that an incredibly powerful computer is indeed required to solve them, so put your pen and paper down, because no matter how good you are in school, you're not gonna solve this one, bro. If you're really curious about it though and wanna go check it out in more detail on your own, I'll let you all link in the description along some other useful ones. As for understanding the basics, you don't need to know any more than I've already pointed out. Remember that if you appreciate the content we're putting out, using our affiliate links is literally a free way for you to support the channel, as we get a commission for every person that actually does that. Back to miners then. The first miner to solve the problem gets to write it down in a ledger, and as a reward, a new amount of Bitcoin is generated and is sent to the wallet associated with that miner. However, the rewards get smaller and smaller with time, and given the amount of actual companies who specialize in mining by owning enormous holes filled with ASIC units which are built specifically to do that, mining Bitcoin on your laptop, although still theoretically possible, would be highly unprofitable and could make your house blow up. Now, as I've mentioned before, the rewards get smaller with time according with the protocol embedded in the Bitcoin algorithm, and new Bitcoin is only generated as a reward for miners. See where this is going? There is a fixed number of Bitcoins that will ever be available, and that number is 21 million, out of which more than 19 million have already been mined, with the last one being expected to be mined around the year 2140. This basically means that Bitcoin is extremely deflationary, which brings us to a new chapter. What is it that gives Bitcoin its actual value if it's nothing more than just algorithms and numbers on computers with no equivalent in the real life? Does its value, which right now stands at around $20,000 per Bitcoin, even make any sense, or is it actually some kind of Ponzi scheme or any of the other bad things you've heard people call it that you don't even know the meaning of? And they probably don't either. Well, firstly, unlike traditional currencies, Bitcoin is deflationary, which means its value will increase in time instead of going down. This happens because of the limited supply, which is in high contrast with traditional currencies, considering governments are printing money on a regular basis. You can see that just by looking at its progress up until now. In the last 10 years, Bitcoin's price went up by about literally 2,000 times because of increasing demand and decreasing supply. Simple as that. I mean, if you were mining Bitcoin in 2010 and you racked up a couple hundreds, you'd literally be a millionaire by now. Sure, it's not as fast as Usain Bolt finishing the 100-meter sprint, but quite honestly, he's getting older, so you might actually have a chance of catching up with him. Secondly, Bitcoin does actually have some sort of equivalent in the real life in terms of something that invested with provable value. Like for any other commodity, this lays in the cost of production, or in other words, what you actually need to generate Bitcoin, since as we discussed before, it doesn't just spawn out of nowhere. You need miners, which usually are ASIC units that are designed specifically to do this and only this, and they're not exactly cheap. And on top of that, you need insane amounts of electricity to keep them running. Just like gold, which actually served as the main inspiration for Bitcoin, value is determined by how hard it is to produce it. People are willing to pay a lot of money for gold because of its scarcity and because they know someone had to go dig up a hole in the middle of nowhere and mine it, which implies a lot of effort, both physically and financially wise. They know the supply is limited and there is no other way for them to get their hands on it other than relying on these miners. I mean, as far as I know, alchemy has been dead since the Middle Ages. This scarcity and difficulty of production defines the value of gold, and it's just the same with Bitcoin. I mean, ever wonder why the process of generating Bitcoin is called mining in the first place? Any currency runs on a credibility mechanism called consensus. This basically means that if all other people in the world or in a local area agree that a certain thing is valuable and it can be exchanged for goods, then it really is. This is hard to achieve even though it might sound simple. Imagine you buy a printer and start printing out blue paper sheets in an attempt to turn it into a local currency. How many people would be willing to trade it for goods? Exactly, not a single one. Governments usually have the power to resolve this issue by holding a position of authority and acting as a trustable agent that people don't usually question, taking what it puts out for granted. More than that, national currencies are legal tenders in their countries, which practically means that all businesses and institutions are required to accept it as a means of debt or tax payment, or just in exchange for goods and services. However, Bitcoin is not tied to any central institution like a government, being a peer-to-peer decentralized currency, and even though a couple of countries like El Salvador adopted it as a legal tender, it mainly runs on a consensus mechanism where people just need to agree on the fact that it is in fact valuable and they need to be willing to accept it in exchange for things. So the next time someone asks you, why on earth would this digital money be worth $20,000 a coin, you can just tell them, because people are willing to pay that much for it. This is literally how money works, not only Bitcoin, every currency works like that. That being said, let's go through a couple of famous misconceptions regarding Bitcoin and shed some light on them. Bitcoin is a scam. This just makes no sense, as like I kept mentioning throughout the video, there is no central authority that would even profit off of people buying Bitcoin only for it to go to zero at some point. The people who promote cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin do not officially represent it, nor do they have any legal ties with it. So if they point you in the wrong direction and you end up losing money, that doesn't mean Bitcoin is a scam, it just means you're watching the wrong people. Bitcoin will eventually go to zero. It won't happen. Am I 100% sure of it? As with everything else in life, you can never be 100% certain, but the chances of it happening are literally lower than a traditional currency like the dollar, for example, going to zero, so I'd say we're looking at a pretty good chance. What if every single miner in the world stops mining? Will Bitcoin go to zero then? If every single miner stopped mining, the consequences would be certainly not good for Bitcoin, but it's so complex that it's not even certain that it would go to zero from that point. I'll leave you a link for further resources if you want to check it out, but anyway, the chances that every single computer on the planet will stop mining Bitcoin are lower than that of the planet actually getting destroyed by pollution, killing humankind altogether, so I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Subscribing to the channel will generate 1 Bitcoin that will be sent to your crypto wallet. This is not true, but I do suggest you subscribe to the channel so you won't have to rely on your drunk neighbor for financial information anymore. Why is Bitcoin any different from Ethereum or any of the other cryptocurrencies, some of which are in fact scams? Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date, as we'll make a video about Bitcoin versus all the other cryptocurrencies, as this is kind of a longer topic. But as a short answer to the question, all other projects in the crypto space, including Ethereum, do have a central authority that could theoretically profit off of people, even though they're decentralized. Think of the other crypto projects as companies with a CEO whose algorithms could be changed at any time. Ethereum just did that, and you've probably heard about it as it was a huge change. That would never happen with Bitcoin, as changing its code is technologically impossible. Even though Bitcoin's code can be changed, it can be copied, so basically anyone could come up with a perfect replica to take the place of the original algorithm. This is perfectly true, and there is no compelling argument against the fact that this will happen at some point. I mean, other than the hundreds of copycats that have already tried to do that and failed miserably, and the hundreds of experts from the financial field that not only explaining why this will never happen due to Bitcoin's credibility that we mentioned earlier, and some other factors as well. I mean, think about fakes and replicas in general. Why would people use them instead of the original? A lot of fake designer clothes are made in the exact same factories that produce the originals as well, so why do people still prefer to pay more only to have something apparently more original and not fake or copied? Plus, with Bitcoin, you'd have no advantage of using a replica. It's not as if you're buying a fake pair of chain reactions for a fifth of the price of the original. You're just using a copied piece of code that has 10 times more chances of losing its credibility, if it's ever had any, and dropping to zero or an insignificant price like that, leaving you with valueless currency.